But the first thing we're going to do is quickly introduce the team, or rather the team are going to introduce themselves. And then once that introduction is done, we're going to go around back to the team to speak about a certain area that they have infinite amount of knowledge in. My name is Simon. I work for Adoption UK in Scotland. I'm the Family and Communities Manager. I only touch the FASD hub lightly and always in awe of the amazing work that they do. And I hope by the end of this webinar that you agree with me that they do an amazing difference, making fantastic contributions to everything that relates to FASD. But Joe, good evening. Who are you?
Good
Why are you
evening,
here?
Simon. Hi, everybody. My name is Jo Garofalo. I am the FASD lead advisor for the hub. I'm the only one actually of our little small perfectly formed team that resides in England. But luckily within my role, I get the joy of going to Edinburgh a couple of times a year. I sometimes think I need to extend my stay and convince my husband to move. But so I've been at the hub for nearly 3 years now. My role involves developing training, developing resources, working in our one-to-one family support service, supporting with social media. That we have an absolutely great team. Although we're very small, we all support each other. It's been an absolute great pleasure for me. To be fair, I've never, ever, ever had a normal job. I come from background of performing arts and have a company staging shows at Wembley Arena, raising awareness for adoption and fostering, and a streaming channel making documentary and music programming. So I ended up in this world because I'm an adoptive mum. I have a 19-year-old son, inter-country adoption from an orphanage in Morocco. And then I have my beautiful and wonderful 14-year-old daughter, domestic adoption, who has a complex diagnosis of FASD, ASD, ADHD, intellectual disability, dyslexia, and the thing goes on. And due to the way the landscape is for FASD, I just became obsessed with learning and educating myself in order to support my little girl. And luckily enough, ended up working with the hub. It was the very best decision I think I made to do this. It's sometimes a bit of a juggle, but I love what I do. I love the team. I love the training. I love the fact that we all support each other, and I love to see the difference that we as a team are making to families, and the difference that we're making to the landscape of FASD, alongside so many other organisations that are trying desperately to, implement all the things that are suggested by the SIGN 156 and the NICE quality standards. So I feel honoured to be part of this team, and really, really, really happy to be here. And I just have to mention that Laura is here and she's currently in Texas, just because we said all the people that were here from England, and I just wanted to say to Laura in Texas that she's here too. So yeah, Simon, that's me. Back to you.
Fabulous, Joe. Thank you very much. Fortunately, it's not going to be very much of me because I'm just passing straight over to Lindsay to say good evening. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi there. So I'm the FASD Advice Line Advisor at the Hub. Also admin officer. I've worked for the Hub for over 4 years. Got rather more than 4 years lived experience of parenting a child with FASD. So some of my roles is on the advice line, so that's on the phone. May have spoke to many people here, on answering emails, the one-to-one family support service. So that's kind of provides a more of a bespoke supports to families. That can be on a variety of subjects. I facilitate 4 of the community groups. So our own FASD group, the AUK members group, 2 of the adults with FASD and young people's group. So saying that, I do support Carol in other areas of the adults with FASD work. I also monitor the peer support groups and the adults and young people's support group as well, and lots of admin tasks. So yeah, I love my job, and that's it.
Fabulous. And you know what? I know you love your job, Lindsay, and you're saying that not just because your manager is on the call as well, but because you
Yeah.
actually do.
I
Um,
I actually do. I'm so passionate about all things FASD and supporting families.
yeah, absolutely. And I have to say that it's certainly something that I really pick up when I have interactions with the team, just how passionate they are about making a difference, whether it's because of lived experience or just because they see that there is a need that needs to be filled. Brilliant. But Lindsay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gemma, we're going over to you. Good evening. Hello.
Sure. Hello. Good evening. I want to be really boring at first and just reiterate what Joe and Lindsay have said, just about how amazing our little team is, how passionate we all are. I don't take for granted the fact that I work with a bunch of really, really lovely people, and that just makes, the work day so much better. So I wanted to say that first. My name is Gemma McAllister. I am the FASD Communities Advisor. Like Lindsay, I've worked for the Hub for about 4 years. Similar to what Joe and Lindsay have said, I help support families in our one-to-one support service. I help develop and present training. I help man the advice line with the lovely Lindsay and Sylvia. I help run peer support groups, lots and lots of bits and pieces. A little bit about me. Before I worked for the Hub, my life was all about music and music therapy. I did an actual music performance degree at university, and realised during that I didn't want to be a music performer. So I then did a 2-year postgrad in music therapy, and I set up my own business, and then I worked for a music therapy charity for about 12 years. And it was a very creative job, and very kind of emotionally and physically demanding job. And then I adopted my lovely girl, who's actually turning 11 tomorrow. But I adopted her when she was 8 months old. And as her challenges increased, my work hours as a music therapist went down until it was kind of time to stop, take a break, figure out what was going on. And we did. She got her diagnosis of FASD and ADHD when she was 4. And I started working for the Hub when she was around 6. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic, Gemma. Thank you. And I'm sure those of you who aren't too familiar with the FASD Hub are already noticing a trend of everybody doing a little bit of everything. So I wasn't joking when I said earlier on, or if I didn't say it, I should have said that it's a small team, but it punches above its weight. So thank you, Gemma. Another example of that is the lovely Carol, who is waiting, poised to say hello. So Carol, hello.
Hi everybody, my name's Carol Hunter and I'm the lead for the adults and young people with FASD groups. I got involved with the Hub, I've been involved with the Hub for a couple of years now, initially starting off as a volunteer and just sharing my story, so I'm an adoptee and an adult with FASD, and that then led to them pointing a job out to me with AUK, so I did a community engagement lead with the E project for adoptive kinship and young people with FASD, and then this alongside it. And I also work full time at the local college as a health and wellbeing advisor. So you can tell that my coping mechanism is to be busy. And I think that's really about it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it almost begs the question how on earth you actually have time to actually come on this tonight. But we're very grateful that you do have the time to come on this tonight, sharing your experience and your vast wisdom, Carol, despite the fact that you're so modest about that as well. But brilliant, Carol. Welcome. Thank you very much. Sylvia, we're over to you. Good evening.
Hello, hi, thanks Simon. Hi everyone, I'm Sylvia Jurovic and I'm the Families and Communities Advisor and also Services Administrator at the Hub, and I work closely with Lindsay, Gemma and Joe on kind of developing training, presenting the training, as well as doing the one-to-one family support and helping Lindsay and Gemma with the advice line. And I will also do the kind of say that I love working at the Hub, and I've learned so much from everyone in the team, and I keep learning from everyone because everyone's so amazing and inspiring. But a little bit just briefly about me. Before I started doing this job, I was kind of similarly to Joe, I worked in film production basically, and then I basically decided to change the route, I guess, of my life, and I did a master's in psychology, and then basically I wrote my dissertation on lived experiences of caregivers of children with prenatal alcohol exposure, and that's how I came across FASD Hub Scotland. And yeah, miraculously I managed to get the job here, and I've been happy ever since. So that's kind of my story.
That's awesome, Sylvia. Thank you very, very much. I'm starting to wonder how much it's costing Barbara, who we're going to come to in a moment, to pay everybody to say how wonderful it is working for the FASD Hub. So Barbara, you might want to ignore that question, actually. But thank you, Sylvia, and it's over to you. So hello to the boss.
Hello, boss. No, they are a wonderful team, and we all work so well together, and it's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be the FASD Services Manager. So my role involves lots of exciting things like writing reports and doing lots of planning and things like that, which actually I really love doing. So it suits me down to the ground. I have worked for Adoption UK for 5.5 years and been in the hub for coming up for 5, and just absolutely love it here. It's the best job I've ever had, no doubt about it. Part of my role is also taking a lead in the development of FASD services across Adoption UK. So we're hoping to expand our services into England and Wales and Northern Ireland. So that's a really exciting thing to be involved in too. My background, well, way back when, an awful long time ago now, I was a nursery nurse, and that turned into becoming a children's worker within the community. So working for various charities and working with children. And my last job before I went on adoption leave was as a children's worker within the drug and alcohol rehab, where children lived with their mums while their mums detoxed. And my job was to support the children before they went into rehab and when they came out of rehab. So that kind of piqued my interest in children affected by drug and alcohol misuse, which was a really good experience for me, because I then went on to adopt, first of all, my daughter, and a year later, my son. And my daughter is now 18, my son is coming up for 17, and they both have a history of prenatal alcohol exposure. And my son has a diagnosis of FASD. And he was diagnosed as a baby, so I've been around FASD now for coming up 16 years, which seems a very long time. I've seen a lot of change in that time. We adopted them, then took a 12-year adoption leave break, and during that I did a degree and a master's in childhood and youth studies, and then I came to work here. So that's my potted history of my life, and I'm delighted to be here.
Fantastic, Barbara. Thank you very much. What a lovely finishing portion for introducing the team. But we're going to whiz straight back to Jo. So Jo, what are you going to be talking about for the next few moments?
Well, I am going to talk to everybody about, we asked for pre-submitted questions, and obviously there was a wide variety, but they all fell into sort of certain categories. So what we've tried to do is split that up across the team to cover it generally, and hopefully have some time at the end to talk to people if they have more specific questions. So I'm actually going to talk about the topic that is huge to everybody, which is diagnosis. So I'm going to share my screen just so that people can have a look at the things that I'm talking about. Sometimes visuals are better. They might want to take a photo on their phone or something. So just bear with me and I'll share my screen. Hopefully everybody will be able to see that now. So
yep, it's all good.
Fabulous. So I think the first thing is why is a diagnosis important? Because we hear so many times families and parents and carers come through and say, oh, well, we've been told we've got an autism diagnosis, we should stick with that. So before we go into the diagnosis, there's a few reasons why it's important. So one, it helps parents and carers better understand their child and their behaviour or symptoms. So many families that we talk to say that when they received a diagnosis, they felt such a huge mixture of emotions. But one of the common feelings, I think, is relief, that they can let go of any of the underlying worries that they had about their child being bad, or not even bad, but that people don't understand and think that they need a parenting course. A diagnosis helps with understanding the root cause of their children or young person's symptoms / behaviors, and then be able to put appropriate parenting supports and strategies in place. It can be a guide to the most appropriate and best support. Sometimes supports are not put on or placed solely on symptoms and not diagnosis, but there are times when the shortcut to the most appropriate support from outside agencies is by having an official diagnosis in place. So if you don't have that diagnosis, it limits what you can get. It really helps older children and adolescents. And as a parent of a 14-year-old, I've really seen this firsthand. Better understand themselves and also develop their ability to advocate, because as our children grow, it's imperative that they have an understanding of their condition so that they don't label themselves as not good enough or there's something wrong with them. And having an official diagnosis can aid a child's understanding that they have a condition that results in having their own sort of unique strengths and challenges. And it also gives them a voice. My daughter is very good at saying, excuse me, it's not that I won't do this. I can't remember what you said yesterday. And she's very good at bringing it back, because I always say, bring it back to the brain. And it really does aid communication among clinicians and caregivers and educators and families. It gives you more power to talk about your loved one and the person you're supporting. So that's why I think it's crucial that we have a diagnosis. It's very varying across the country, across the whole of the UK. So that's why I decided to use these slides, because obviously we have limited time and we want to be able to talk to you at the end. So please feel free to take a photo on your phone of this. But in essence, visit your GP and ask for a referral for a neurodevelopmental assessment. Your child's school may also be able to make this referral for you. If you face issues with a referral, which I know for many families in England, when they go to a GP, they are very quick to say, oh, well, I don't know what you do, and you can't go to the neurodevelopmental pathway because it's only ADHD and ASD. So what I would generally suggest then is just ask for a referral to a paediatrician with a knowledge of neurodiverse conditions. And during the assessment, the child or young person will be screened for a range of conditions, including ADHD, ASD, as well as FASD. And following that, you'll receive a written report, which will include all details of strengths and challenges. And you should be given the opportunity to meet with the clinician to discuss the report in depth. However, that is varying across the UK. What happens in one county in England may be very different to what happens in Scotland, Wales, and massively different from Ireland. So this is just an overview, but obviously we have our advice line if people want to have more in-depth conversations. As part of the neurodevelopmental assessment, the clinician will ask for any knowledge of prenatal alcohol exposure, confirmation of self-reporting from the biological mother that the pregnancy was alcohol exposed, confirmation from a reliable source, so a close family member or a professional, or medical records documenting blood alcohol levels, or records from social, legal, or medical professionals detailing, the prenatal alcohol exposure. It is really important to remember that this is a really sensitive area, and any seeking of PAE history should be carried out in a trauma-informed way by a trained professional. So we do not advocate or support going full out and trying to find the history as an adoptive parent by direct access. An assessing clinician may seek advice from other professionals known to the family, but this is sort of the overview of how you get a confirmation of PAE. So as part of the assessment as well, there'll be genetic testing carried out, and this is to rule out other conditions that may have similar characteristics. So based on the SIGN 156 guidance, a diagnosis of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder with sentinel facial features would be given when the developmental effects of prenatal alcohol exposure is assessed to be at a significant level of impairment in at least 3 of the brain domains. And if you look at this slide, you can see the brain domains on the right of the slide around the image of the brain. The sentinel facial features must also be present, and they are the thin upper lip, the smooth philtrum, that little groove above your lip, and the small eye openings. But it's really important to remember that only around 10% of individuals have these features. And also, it's also important to add, and I'm not sure if this is UK-wide, but it's definitely in England, that you can get a diagnosis when you have partial facial features. You can still get FASD with sentinel facial features, which we have for my daughter, but she has a flat mid-face. There are other things that you can have, but still get that diagnosis. But they're the main 3 sentinel facial features that would go with FASD. A diagnosis of FASD without sentinel facial features may be given if there is confirmed exposure to alcohol before birth, and the individual again displays challenges in at least 3 of the brain domains. And obviously, this is the diagnosis that is probably applicable to about 90% of the people with FASD, which is why we so often say this is an invisible disability. Like, you can't see it. Not everybody, 10% have facial features, the rest don't. So that's how you'd get the FASD without sentinel facial features. In addition, you could receive a diagnosis of other specified neurodevelopmental disorder, which is a diagnostic term that is utilised by some clinicians in place of FASD without sentinel facial features. And the diagnostic thresholds, though, are the same. So you may find that this term is preferred by clinicians in a CAMS setting. I think it really, really depends what local authority you're in, which part of the UK you're in. So although it's not a diagnosis as such, an individual may also be described as being at risk of neurodevelopmental disorder and FASD if there is confirmed exposure to alcohol before birth. However, they do not meet the criteria for an FASD diagnosis. But many of these children will have their neurodevelopmental assessment revisited at a later date, and in particular, if their challenges become more apparent, which is very often what we see as children grow. You know, the challenges start to generally show between the ages of sort of 7 and 8, and the gap starts to widen. The main piece of advice, if wanting to look into diagnosis, is to look back at your children's medical records, whether they be adopted or kinship, and look for confirmation of prenatal alcohol exposure. And ideally, this would include the frequency and quantity and timing. And it might be helpful to write down your observations and concerns about your child. And if you can, link them to the brain domains. But as a parent and a carer, just remember, you are the expert on your child. So don't give up, and don't just be told to go away, because you know what goes on in your house. So persevere. And that's me with my swift assessment of diagnosis. I'm going to hand back to Simon.
Thank you very much, Jo. Who knew you could get such a lot of information in a short period of time?
I know.
Yes, yeah, and I know that there are things that you could have put in there as well that obviously time didn't allow you to do as well. But Jo, that was amazing. Thank you very much. Lots of really supportive comments and a few hearts and thumbs up in the chat there as well. Lindsay, we're over to you, I believe.
Yeah. I'll try and do the same with education, which is yet another topic that's like frequently sought for advice. So on our website, we have a wealth of information, and some of that's education specific as well, like so for fact sheets, for resources. Also we signpost our insights and strategies training, which is aimed at educators and other professionals who support families. It not only just provides information about FASD, it's very heavy on resources, strategies, etc., that can support and also reframe thinking in the classroom. Like an example would be shifting the lens from the young person trying harder to then those around actually trying differently. So families can call our advice line and request more individual supports. Often I suggest that they may want to share the email I send them on to school. This could be maybe more a bit of a gentle way of getting the information to the educators, increasing awareness and having a better understanding of FASD supports and what really should be implemented. An additional service that we can refer some families onto is the Adoption UK Education and Support Service. So our colleagues there, Paula and Amy, they can provide more individual supports. They can attend school meetings, for example. They're not just really informed on FASD at school, it's the crossover to home life too, which I think is really important that school know about as well. So I have answered some of the questions within that, but a couple of others that I would like to kind of address. One being, how do we get additional FASD informed supports and professionals at school meetings now? That can be quite tricky, you know, getting the informed professionals there. If families are in Scotland, as I say, the AUK Education may be able to attend. Also, educators can call our advice line too, can share links to the website, fact sheets, training. We do have a specific fact sheet, which is aimed at supporting before and attending school meetings. And within there, there's lots of links, and it's particularly important for parents and carers to know their rights and their child's rights at school. Some other like signposting we might do to inquire, that's for Scotland, and IPSE for England. So it's your right, it's parents' right to request, example, for an educational psychologist to attend a meeting. So better to do this in writing. For the purpose of keeping a paper trail, like we always recommend, like put it in writing. If it's not in writing, it might never have happened. It's also good to keep the chronology. If any decisions are refused, you know, put that in writing as well. Why were they refused? What's any appeal procedure to go down? And at meetings to ask, you know, specifically and plan in advance, how are school going to meet the needs of your child? It's always good to kind of use the framework that's there, like the legal framework of Norfolk and Scotland, EHCPs, even bringing into the Equality Act 2010, is there a breach of any disability law? In Scotland, there is virtual heads, so they provide additional supports for care experienced pupils. So we can very much inform, getting the professionals who are really FASD informed to attend can be a little bit more tricky. And another question, how do we go about working with teachers and other professionals to promote confidence? So I would say the very top sort of priority is the child feeling safe. So felt safety is often something that's not quite understood, and it can be minimised as well. We do have an A to Z resource on that, along with so many other things, and I can put links that I've referenced in the chat afterwards. So feeling and being safe, having good trusting relationships with staff can really be the foundations, and then the learning is more likely to happen after that, and even actually getting the child to school. in the first place if they feel safe. Therefore, then that's how their confidence and belief in themselves can grow. The more that they have felt safety, the more that they're heard as well. So we don't want them to feel that they're set up to fail. So we could give recommendations of chunking work so things are more achievable. Understanding of the child's spiky profile, what's their strengths, you know, what's their challenges, basically getting to know the individual, reframing thinking of think brain, not blame, think can't, not won't, and then furthermore, how do they go about actually changing things, making things better? Good communication, so that could be from a home to school diary, again, keeping a paper trail, capturing the child's voice, you know, they could be masculine as well, it could be a completely different child at home as to what they're at school. Masculine could very much be like a coping strategy for many individuals with FASD. And it's not just the teachers, it really should be a good whole school approach, including the early years, colleges and beyond, having a good understanding of FASD, symptoms rather than the behaviours, and insights and strategy training again is a great way for educators to learn more. I think it's also really good for good communication is to tell school when things are going well. Hopefully that's the case and there can be some positives that's found. They may be more willing to listen and be inclined to hear what isn't going well and wanting to change that. It's really quite crucial to get your child's voice heard. So that could be via yourself. It could also be via an advocacy worker as well. And really talking about the child's voice, I think it's, you know, time to hear some of the young people's voice. And within that, we have young people talking at our FASD conference. So that's it from me, and I will pop some links that I've referenced in the chat.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. And you know what? All of that was such a load of common sense. It does make you wonder really why it is so difficult to actually achieve it sometimes, and not very much of that costs a huge amount of money either. It's just a different shift in perspective and a little bit of thought and change of language. But Lindsay, thank you very much, and thank you for popping some of that information in the links there as well. I believe we will be talking a little bit more about the service. One of the colleagues is going to be talking about the service in a wee while, just to expand on that anyway. But that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Lindsay. I'm just checking my notes here because Gemma, I think you're up next.
I think Barbara's going to.
Well, yeah, if I could jump in, I'm actually wondering if we maybe don't actually have time to show the video because it's 6 minutes. So what I'll do is I'm going to post the link in the chat. It's a fantastic video that was created by our children and young people alongside Carol for our FASD conference, and it's just talking about all the challenges that some of our young people face in education, but also talking about what their passions are, what they really like, and it's just so strong. It was the highlight of the conference. So many people fed back to us, just having that authentic voice of lived experience. And I'm really sorry that I don't think we've got time to actually show it at the moment, but I am going to put the link straight in the chat, and I'd really encourage you to have a look at that afterwards, because it is really great.
Yeah, have some hankies close by, but yes, please watch it afterwards, once we're finished at 9 o'clock, and don't be tempted to sneak off and watch it now, because there's so much more wonderful information still to come your way. And with no further ado, Gemma, over to you. Thank you, Barbara.
Hello. Right. So what I'm going to be speaking about just briefly this evening is something that we all talk to a lot of families about, and it's how to support their children and how to develop appropriate parenting strategies. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. Obviously, it's a huge topic, so I guess I just wanted to share the main headlines and signpost to some further reading and support, you know, for those that this is relevant for. But I wanted to start by saying that a very common question we get asked in training particularly is, you know, is change possible? do things get better? And I think I said earlier, my daughter turns 11 tomorrow. So I've kind of been reflecting quite a lot these past few weeks, and it's something that I can absolutely answer with yes. There has been, so much growth and so much improvement and so much change. And when things were at their worst, I don't think I could have ever imagined where we are today. She still has challenges, of course, and it's still a big part of our daily lives, but things are very different. And I've really experienced the fact, that things do change for the better. And some of what I'm going to talk about links to what Lindsay was talking about, in that sense that in order to facilitate the change that we need to actually change what we as parents and carers are doing. I mean, I think back to before my daughter had her diagnosis, and I always put my hand up and say I was the super nanny parent. I loved super nanny, in our naughty step, whatever it was, and sticker charts, and my best friend was a teacher. So, we just thought we had it all figured out with my girl, that, she just needed more discipline and more firm boundaries and more sticker charts. That was the way to go, and that would sort everything out. And firmly say that it did not. It actually made things much worse. It was a very confusing, upsetting, stressful time where I thought I was the worst parent in the world. And because I really believed that my daughter just would not behave. It was horrible. And the first thing I did when I heard about FASD is I started to learn how I could think about what was happening and parent her in a different way that was more suited to her needs. And you really can't overemphasize that fact that we as parents and carers, we have to change first. We need to understand that what we're looking at is a child or a young person who is not in control of what they're doing when they're dysregulated. They're not trying to be difficult. They don't want to be shouting at you and insulting you or hitting you or saying no to everything. They don't want to be doing that. They want to be like, everybody else as they see it. And they are aware, at least on some level, that, they are different and that they can't control what they say and do sometimes. And I think that must be very scary for them. So we have to change how we think about what's happening and how we react to what they're doing. So I think Lindsay said it's thinking things like can't, not won't. And then leading on from that, how can we support this child to do what we need them to do? It's thinking change the environment. So that's what might be going on around them in terms of noise, in terms of smells, in terms of, what they can see. Along the lines of thinking about a sensory profile, what do they like? What calms them? What regulates them? What don't they like? What stresses them out? It's really kind of being a detective and asking yourself these questions of what might be going on underneath what I can see right now, what's happened in the last 5 minutes, what might have happened today at school or nursery. What am I asking their brain to do right now, knowing what I know about the things they find difficult? There maybe too many demands being placed on them. Is there a transition coming up that they're stressed out about? And when we do that, when we think about things in that way, we meet them with more patience, more kindness, more understanding. And leading on from that, we can start to think about preempting things, preempting issues, being proactive rather than reactive. And we can start trying out different strategies. And that doesn't mean, being more empathetic means that what's going on is okay. It's not. And, strategies do need to be put in place. But in the moment, it gives you that grace, I think, to connect with your child rather than go into kind of shouting mode or super nanny mode, which is much more helpful. So in terms of the information and resources we have a lot available to you on parenting strategies, parenting styles. So I would start by going to our website where we have previous Wednesday webinars. Some are about parenting strategies. We have our FASD A to Z, and that has topics like yelling, aggression, defiance, confabulation, lots of things, if you're looking for specifics. There is a brilliant book that we recommend a lot by Diane Malbin called Trying Differently Rather Than Harder. Great little book to read. And there's another one, FASD, Parenting a Child with an Invisible Disability. There are two that we recommend a lot. We also do training on connective parenting, and things like therapeutic parenting have helped me as well. You know, there's a lot out there, and I think the great thing is, as we get to know our child, you know, what calms them, what regulates them, what stresses them out, we can pick and choose what is most sensible, what's most suitable, what's most appropriate for you and for your child and to your family. And that's what we at the Hub do. We talk to parents and carers about parenting, you know, very generally, you know, the umbrella sort of approach, but also very specific issues like, you know, how do I deal with spitting? How do I deal with child-to-parent violence? You know, how do I help them to learn to shower and get dressed themselves? You know, everyone deals with their different challenges. But that's, you know, there's lots of information out there, and that's part of what we do at the Hub. So yeah, I would just encourage people to get in touch if this rings true for you. And that's me.
That's awesome, Gemma. Thank you very, very much. And I think one thing that puts Adoption UK to one side from many other organisations, and the Hub as well as being part of that, is the very much lived experience. It's an organisation that doesn't just talk the talk, it walks the walk as well, for better or for worse. And what Gemma was saying there about signposting, you enter the world of the FASD Hub, there is so much that it actually can lead to within the organisation that actually offers so much support and information and guidance and help. But thank you, Gemma. That was amazing, as always. Thank you. Carol, we're coming to you for your wee bit. We have 15 minutes left, which I don't know why I mentioned that. No pressure, anyone who's yet to speak, but Carol, it's over to you.
Right, I like to talk fast anyway, so it shouldn't take too long. I'm speaking a little bit about the adults and young people with FASD work that I lead on. So obviously I mentioned before that I have FASD and I'm an adult adoptee, and I didn't know I had FASD until not too long ago. So when I went into the wonderful world of Google to try and figure out what this was, it was like a light bulb moment, because I finally realised why I was the way I was, and that's okay. And I found a lovely community that understood and got it, so I didn't have to explain my quirks, as I used to call them. So just like kind of to get a bit info what Gemma says, you know, like we know that all the young people have all these challenges and things like that, and they don't simply just go away with a magic wand once you hit adulthood. And there's a massive gap of, well, in my opinion anyway, and other people that we've spoken to, for resources of people past a certain age. There's loads and loads of resources and amazing work, you know, that the FASD Hub Scotland's done for, you know, young people and parents and carers and stuff, but there seems to be something just maybe missing a wee bit for us that are maybe over a certain age, that then have to deal with the life challenges such as, you know, maybe being a parent, you know, money management that could lead to debt, the justice system. It spirals from there. So we have been working very hard to engage with those over the age of 16 with FASD in Scotland only, because that's what we're funded for, unfortunately, to try and engage with them to see what they think's missing and what they need, which has been challenges to say the least. But we're getting there slowly, I would say so. You know, the normal challenges of people forgetting they've got meetings, you know, forgetting the times, you know, the whole social anxiety, meeting other people and just trying to get them to even join the meeting. But we knew that that was what was going to happen, and that these things take time. And that's what we've been committing to it. So if you check out on the website, there is a lot of resources that we've put together already. So there is ones on education, employment, money and benefits, and they're all written in a language. So when you read it, you know it's someone with FASD around the same age as you that has written it. Because you know what it's like, it's always feel like when you look at things, you feel like you're being spoken to or spoken at. So it's nice to see that you can kind of relate with the language that's being used. And at the moment, we are working through a big social media campaign for FASD month. So there is lots of ones around healthy eating, there is sleep, money management, employability, and filling in application forms because they are very, very daunting, and who understands all the language on them. And then again, sharing stories of success, because it's always about sharing the small wins and stuff like that too. So we're really trying to create a community of people of like-minded that can then provide resources and create a legacy for other people just like them. And I'll try to keep it really concise. So I think that's it in a nutshell. And watch this space because there's what's coming.
That's fantastic, Carol. So, I mean, you promised that in front of people, in front of witnesses. So, I know there was never any danger of it not happening. But your ambition is absolutely extraordinary, and a credit to you, and also to the support from the colleagues that you get that are here as well. So, Carol, that's amazing. Thank you very much. You heard the threat, everybody who's on the call. Watch this space, and you'll be hearing an awful lot of. I mean, there's so much stuff there already. I have to draw your attention to the chats. Various folk have been putting links in there, Lindsay, amongst others. When this conversation stops just after 9 o'clock, obviously you will lose those links. So if you're actually wanting to click on them just now, and keep them just open in a browser so that when this call finishes, you still have the link there. But Sylvia might be showing you a little way that you can access them after the call anyway, perhaps. And Sylvia, over to you. See what I did there, Sylvia? The wee segue there. I just kind of did that there. So
Excellent.
what
Thank
can I
you,
say?
Simon.
What can I say? That's okay. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'll just be as brief as possible because I know some of these services have already been mentioned, I think by Gemma and Carol and Lindsay, so I'll just try and keep it brief. But basically, this is our FASD Hub Scotland service model, and I'll just go around it one by one, what we kind of have to offer to people in Scotland and also in the UK. So our advice and support line, this can be accessed by everyone in the UK, so it doesn't matter where you're at. Please do feel free to phone us or email us. There's the number on the screen, and our advice line is open from Tuesday to Friday, so we can offer advice to parents and carers and professionals as well. So yeah, please feel free to use it. Our second resource is our website. So here we have things that Lindsay and Gemma already mentioned. So we have all sorts of information sheets. We have fact sheets, signposting, as well as our A to Z, which is amazing. And also our newest FASD toolkit, where basically we kind of have exercises that parents and carers or professionals can do with children to kind of help them with different aspects that they might be struggling with. For example, we have an excellent exercise called the emotions iceberg that can kind of help with masking that my colleague Gemma created, and basically is just kind of tries to work with the child on showing why maybe they are acting a certain way and what can be kind of behind those behaviors, what emotions might be hiding and why are they masking them. So please go to our website, and all the resources are free, so you can download them. And yeah, the next resource that we have to offer is our events. We love hosting events such as these webinars, and also we like to organize family events whenever we can. Recently we organized a family event in North Lanarkshire where we went with different families to the Amazonia to see some wild animals, which was really fun. Also, one of our biggest resources as well is our online community, and this is kind of the beating heart of the hub, and our Facebook group that has now over 500 God, I lost the words. 500 people
Members?
join in the
Members?
Facebook group. I can't. Thank you. I couldn't speak anymore. But yeah. So, and here parents and carers can kind of share their experiences and share their stories, and also kind of get help when there is an issue. So it's really lovely to kind of create this tribe of people that can understand and help each other. And also we organize then online community groups and virtual meetups for parents and carers on a monthly basis that you can find more information on our website. And then we also offer family support, which is our one-to-one peer support service. And we offer basically 10 sessions tailored to a specific family that they can then work with one of our family advisors, so either Gemma, Lindsay, or myself. And then lastly, we offer FASD training, and this can be training for parents and carers or professionals. So please go on our Eventbrite if you're interested, and you can see all of our training that's coming up. So I won't take up any more time. So this is me. I'll stop sharing. Sorry for
Sylvia, that was
forgetting to say how many people on a Facebook group.
that's okay. Well, I don't know what you call people on a Facebook group. What are you, Facebookers? That's probably not a very good phrase to use it. But you can take a breath now, Sylvia, because I felt as if you rattled through that so quickly because you were so conscious of time. So I was just impressed that you actually didn't faint or something like that because you hadn't been breathing. So Sylvia, thank you so much. That was fabulous. I hope people have been taking pictures. I hope people have been following the links. But Barbara, over to you.
Hello again. The only thing, just I was going to do a little bit here about what services we offer across the UK, but I'm just going to do it very briefly to say that our peer support group is open to everybody across the UK. So the link for that is in the chat. Please come and join us if you're not in there already. Our training is available to everybody as well, but if you're outside Scotland, there's a small fee for that. And we've got lots of exciting plans. Jo and I are desperate to see things develop in England. I can see her jumping up and down in her seat there. So hopefully over the next year, things will begin to happen. Funding's beginning to come in. So watch this space as we roll out. I saw a little question in the chat there about a diagnostic pathway in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, the answer is no, there's not one at the moment. However, there are a lot of people working really hard to try and pull that together. So that's all I'm going to say, but would you like me to answer a question or two while I'm here, Simon?
You might just as well. I'm feverishly been writing it down, but actually, you'll probably do a much better job than me trying to find different bits of paper. So please go for it, Barbara. Yes, yeah, there are some brilliant questions in there.
I'll answer one of the questions that popped up. So we have somebody who's asked, as the use of alcohol and drugs are so often linked to neonatal abstinence syndrome, a diagnosis given in the UK, are there any key differences between the impact of drugs and alcohol? So I'm going to answer this very quickly, but I just happen to have here a slide, a slide or two, which maybe helps explain it. Hopefully you can see that okay. I've got a message saying my internet connection is unstable, so that's not good.
It's all good. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So this is a very simplified table, which explains the short-term effects of prenatal drug exposure. You can see along the top there, nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, opiates, and cocaine, and you can see down the side, fetal growth, anomalies, withdrawal, and neurobehavior. So where there's a red tick, that means there's a strong effect. Yellow means there's an effect. Green means no effect. And if the box is empty, then it's unknown. So you can see that alcohol has an impact on fetal growth and anomalies. And opiates has a very strong effect on withdrawal. Now that is neonatal abstinence syndrome. That's the withdrawal that babies go through when they are born addicted to opiates. It's a horrible time for them. It is a terrible thing to go through. They need a lot of medication. They need a lot of support at that time. So it's really, really tough for them. However, let me just move on my slide. Looking at the long-term effects of drugs and alcohol, then it's a bit of a different picture. So you can see here that opiates don't actually have a lot of long-term effects. Marijuana has some effects, cocaine has some effects over behaviour, cognition and language. However, alcohol is the only teratogen there that has long-term strong effects on a child's development. It affects their growth, their behaviour, their cognition and their achievement. So although a lot of people think that, well, drugs must be worse than alcohol, surely it's not actually the case, though we certainly wouldn't be recommending drug use either. The only known long-term effects of opiates are difficulties with vision and an increased prevalence of ADHD. However, as it'll say when I click on this, of all the substances of abuse, including cocaine, heroin and marijuana, alcohol produces by far the most serious neurobehavioural effects on the fetus. So I hope that kind of answers that question. There are differences between the two. However, alcohol is the most significant one. I'm going to hand back to Simon to see if he wants to ask anyone to answer any more questions.
Yeah, no, thank you, Barbara. I actually took those photographs of those two slides as well. I hadn't actually seen those slides before, actually. So from information that was very close to my personal experience as well. So that's brilliant. Thank you very much. You see, every day is a learning day, folks, when you come on these things. Absolutely, so it is. There was a final question that we might just be able to squeeze in. It's like 9:01. And Gemma, I think you're going to maybe pick up the question that's been popped in there about a wee one who's having a bit of a tough time and hitting out at nurseries.
Yes, I'll try and answer this as quickly as I can. So obviously spoke a bit earlier about general strategies. We do have a video on our A to Z that's on verbal and physical aggression. So the first thing I would do is say, go and watch that, because that has lots of suggestions as well. But without knowing the specifics, I would say that, you know, it all goes down to that individual child. And I think what would really help is to maybe keep a diary for a week or two with this child at nursery, to record all incidents of aggression, you know, keeping it short, just kind of the time of day, what happened right before it, what happened during, what happened afterwards. And hopefully after a few days, they'll start to see some patterns, you know, that can help them plan ahead. But it, you know, changing the environment, we've talked about that. So nurseries are very busy, very noisy, very smelly, very, you know, lots of different things. I remember once my daughter stabbed somebody in the face. She wasn't hurt, thank goodness, but, you know, poked her a bit with a fork while they were eating their lunch, and she said she didn't like the noise of this girl chewing. So, you know, there could be any number of reasons for this aggression at nursery, and it could be based with sensory things. So that would be a really main focus, I would think, to look at as well. Being a detective and thinking about what might be going on for them, setting up a quiet space for them to go to when they're beginning to become dysregulated, you know, vision what they can do, you know, to show them when they're dysregulated, you know, they can hit cushions, that sort of thing, and talking about what they can't do. Even when they're that age, a really good tactic is to try and distract and deflect before things escalate. When they're young, it's a lot easier to do that. I literally, when my daughter was in the car, I used to say, oh, look, there's a unicorn flying in the sky. And when she was 3, she'd go, where? And that would be enough to distract her and de-escalate the situation. Offering a snack, offering a drink, you know, moving out to the garden, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, hopefully those kind of things can help you start planning and looking at maybe why these things are happening and what strategies can be put in place.
That's amazing, Gemma. Thank you so much. I hope that's actually helped a little bit to come to terms with some of the points that was raised in the question there. And I'm just delighted that after years of telling my daughter that unicorns were real, that they actually are real. So that is absolutely fabulous. Something else that I've learned tonight as well.
She doesn't believe me anymore when I say things like that. She just goes, no.
Oh, she will. She will. See, when she's a little bit older, she will. She absolutely will. Yeah, definitely. There's always time for that kind of thing to happen. We have reached the end though, folks. Barbara, I think you were just going to pop a slide back on for Jilly again. There is also in the chat opportunity for you to provide some feedback to this evening's shenanigans and fabulous download of information. There we go. There is the requested slide on there. Please take a quick picture of it before we finish up. Thank you, Barbara, for doing that. I'm not sure if anybody has any closing remarks to do, but if speak now or forever hold thy peace before we finish up, anyone? No. Okay, then I will just say thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of those that have come along and popped questions in the chat and interacted. And I hope you have lots of ideas, lots of links, lots of hope to actually maybe go forward, contact the team and use their extraordinary amount of information for your family's benefit. But that's the end of the webinar, this Wednesday webinar for this evening, folks. Thank you so much for coming along, and I look forward to interacting with you in another occasion on another format. Thank you very much and good night.